Everybody today is digesting the results of the Iowa caucus. But here's a question that still remains. Can anybody beat President Barack Obama? Richard Beals here has put together a pretty interesting calculator which looks at Ray Fair, Yale University's formula for determining the probability that a president will be elected or re-elected. So let's go through this. I mean, this.
Okay, so one thing's interesting. Everybody likes to talk about the unemployment rate. Actually, from what you can tell from the 24 elections since 1916, which is where what the data, what he says is, you know, the biggest indicators are not that. Well, the biggest one really is measures of personal income.
Right.
In the US, which translates to
growth measures,
which is growth,
GDP
per head. Say. I mean, we've simplified a little. We've tried to work it out so that it's GDP growth, which I think more people think that way.
Okay.
So I can give you an idea here. Okay. Right now, based on where we are and some forecasts of GDP, 2.5% GDP growth between now and the election.
And that's what people basically are expecting.
Kind of about right with the consensus. He gets a hair over half the vote. Okay. Now, once you translate that into a probability of winning, which is a slightly different thing from getting half the vote, it's a slightly bigger number. It's about 54%.
And what's the other input then? You've got two others.
So you've got two other inputs. That's one. Inflation is another. Inflation has less effect because it's over the whole term. Growth matters much more.
So the weighting in the calculator is lower for inflation.
Yeah. And then the third one is this sort of feel-good factor. So if you had certain quarters during the president's term when growth was particularly strong, you get extra weight for that.
So above average growth or above expectation
growth?
Above
3% roughly per capita income.
Okay, so show me on the calculator how this works.
But if you take the big one, really is GDP growth. So we've said 2.5. You slide that up to 3. Suddenly, he gets 52%. 52% vote share is pretty much a landslide. So the probability of winning becomes much higher, like 70%.
Okay.
On the other hand, it goes down to 2%.
Yeah, I mean,
and suddenly less than 40% chance of winning.
Okay, but everybody seems to be predicting that the U.S. economy is growing a little bit fast. So you've chosen a number, 2.5%, which gives you a 50.3. Now, what about inflation?
Inflation is the growth input that Ray Fair found had the biggest impact on elections was right in the year running up to the election.
Okay.
Inflation matters over the whole term. So what happens between now and the election matters less.
Okay, gotcha.
But still, you can see it could make a difference. If inflation gets really high, right up 5%,
then it really does shift.
Then it really makes a difference.
Okay. And the swing factor, what are we using?
Well,
for this?
you know, we're saying this is a share of a two-party vote. So if you had a third candidate, that would screw it up. If you think Obama is flawed in some way versus whoever the Republican candidate is going to be, you can build in a swing here. If you want to change the results.
Okay, so now just to boil it all down, taking where we are, inflation as we've seen it, without any expectation of jumping crazy in the next 6 months, and GDP growth, let's put it as, sort of the robust end of expectations. Keeping your swing vote, as you've got it here, where are we?
Right now, just ahead.
Just ahead.
But you've got to look at some other things. That just ahead is what electronic trading markets are saying. But 45% is what the Obama's approval rating is. It's going to depend on whether support solidifies behind, if it's a Mitt Romney or whoever it is on the Republican side. And then you can't forget, the president isn't chosen by vote share, he's chosen by an electoral college. So that's different again. But the other big piece of this is that swing factor. I mean, it makes the way this calculator works a little bit lumpy. It jumps up and then it jumps down.
But it's a great. But in short, this is a great thing for people to play with, particularly after Iowa, as we head into New Hampshire and South Carolina.
It's a fun game to play. See what the probability is.
All right, good stuff. We'll be back with more Breaking Views tomorrow.